Today I'll be teaching you how to check the charge output of your alternator, the charge of your battery, and to make sure that they are both working hand in hand. And all you need to do that is to have a digital multimeter, which I want to go through and show you how to set up and use on your car. Now, depending on what car you have, you may need to have some extra hand tools to get off under trays and the like. But if you have a good Japanese car or a Toyota, it shouldn't be that complicated. Let's jump right in. Okay, so you've got your multimeter here, and essentially you should have your digital multimeter, a positive cable in the red and a negative cable in the black, exact same as your car on your battery, all that kind of stuff. So do not worry about any of these miscellaneous options here. Basically all we want to focus on is this one here, V for volts. Now if your one has multiple V's, basically the best way to differentiate is the straight lines with dots is for direct current, which is what a car puts out. And usually ones with waves is alternating current, which is what your house would put out. Shifting to the bottom of the multimeter, we have your amps, we have your milliamps, this is for your negative, and you have your volts and ohms. We only want to focus on these two here today. First, grab your red cable, get the bottom end and push it in to the red part. Then next, get your black one and do the same, but obviously on the black part into the COM side. Simple as that. Now to turn it on, we're just going to grab this dial and turn it up. When you do that, it should turn on and have a beep. Alright, first things first is to pop the bonnet of your car and see what you're dealing with, because not all engine bays are the same. Some cars have batteries in the engine bay, in the boot, and even under seats. As you can see, after popping the bonnet, there is no battery in the engine bay. However, I've located the alternator, which is very easy to get to. It is behind the driver's side headlight, and I can get access to the main cable to the battery, which is where we will test the charge. Quick note, safety note, I guess you can say, is always, whenever it comes to doing anything on your car, safety comes first. So as you can see, I'm wearing gloves. This is to try and reduce cuts that you get, and also to keep your hands a little bit cleaner. Anyway, back to it. As you can see in this car, my GR Yaris, the battery is in the boot. So the first thing you want to do is pop off the red cover over the positive terminal, grab your multimeter, make sure it's turned on to the right setting that we spoke about before, grab your red probe and your black probe and put the black probe on the negative terminal and put the red probe on the positive terminal. And it should read at least 12 volts. Optimal is around 12.5 to 12.7, but as you can see on mine, it's just over 12. So it's bordering on the undercharged side. Anything below 12 volts, your battery is undercharged and either hasn't charged properly, or maybe you've had it sitting with the lights on while the car isn't running. And if it is over 13.5 volts and your battery is overcharged, it's probably already damaged or about to be damaged. So when checking the charge of your alternator, make sure you put your multimeter in a safe spot where it's not going to fall into the crevices of the engine bay. Number one, so it doesn't get lost. Number two, so it doesn't get caught up in amongst fans and belts. And secondly, same goes with your probes. When using these in the engine bay to check your alternator charge, or doing any job for that matter, especially if the car is running, make sure that they are not in a position where they're going to get caught in the fan, which can cause damage to these, your engine, or yourself. Now we're going to set up the car, check the charge rate of the alternator, and then check to make sure that the charge is getting to the battery. Now it started to rain, but we don't let that stop us here at the Jonesy Express. Okay, now with the engine running, you want to put your negative probe on an earth somewhere. Best bet is usually an engine mount if you can find one, or some sort of bolt that bolts down to metal. You want it to be a good earth, otherwise it may give you an inaccurate reading. Now, with your red probe, which is the positive one, you want this to go on the positive terminal of the alternator. Now, once you pull the cover off this, be careful because this is a live wire. So if you put any earth to positive connection, it will spark and it can cause dramas or blow fuses. So first step, put the positive probe onto the terminal on the alternator, then put the negative probe onto your earth. For me, I'm going to put it onto an engine mount. As you can see, this alternator has a charge output of 14.38 volts, which is within the appropriate range, which is from 13.5 volts to 14.5 volts. Anything under that, your alternator is not charging your battery properly, and anything over that, your alternator is overcharging your battery, which can cause damage to your battery and potentially to your electrical system, and would potentially hint that the voltage regulator in the alternator is no longer functioning properly. Now we're going to jump down to the back where the battery is and make sure the battery is receiving enough charge. The reason why we are doing this is not just to check that the battery is receiving charge from the alternator, but also to see how much voltage drop there is between the alternator and the battery. The acceptable voltage drop is around 0.5 volts. As we can see here, checking the charge output of the alternator and the charge output to the battery, it is within the acceptable 0.5 volt range, with only having a voltage drop of 0.13 volts. If the voltage drop is more than 0.5 volts, this could be for a number of reasons, which range from high electrical load, whether it's aftermarket lights, speakers, amps, fridges, or the like, loose or corroded electrical connections, faulty alternator belt, parasitic drain, defective voltage regulator, grounding problems, damaged wires or wiring harnesses, or just a faulty battery. Now what you need to do is you need to put some load under the car, which you can't really drive the car and do this, so just turn on your lights to high beam and then go through the exact same process. So as you can see with the high beams on now, the alternator has maintained the same output as it did with the high beams off. Now moving back to the battery, go through the exact same process as you did before, and as we can see again, the battery is maintaining the same amount of charge as it was with the high beams off, which is around 0.2 of a volt drop, which is within the acceptable range. And it's as simple as that. You have learned how to check the charge output of your alternator and the charge of your battery, and to make sure that everything is operating how it should, and the regions of voltage that you're allowed to fluctuate between. That's all I've got for you this time, but there is one more step you can do, which is a bit more advanced, and that is doing a parasitic drain test. What this is if your car's sitting as it is right now, turned off, but voltage is still being leaked from somewhere, which can cause you to have a flat battery over time. But that's for another video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.